Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fire Emblem 8 romhack Souls of the Forest. My name is Pondon, and I'll be your host today as we go through and look at our units. So we're going to do some unit analysis. Last time we actually beat the game, and I'm still kind of on a cloud. I did because I just beat this like 5 minutes ago. I wanted to just kind of get this recording up and out and just share my thoughts on all the units and all that stuff. So we're going to kind of go through it. Not pictured, unfortunately, are going to be the two other units that we recruited this chapter. So I don't really have too much to say about them. But let's... I feel like we should start from the bottom and kind of work our way up. So Gerhard. I didn't use him. I used him very briefly in the chapter he joined, but other than that, like... I think I commented on this before, but basically my thought is like the mercenary Myrmidon debate as far as like which class is better is very much contingent on like the mercenary getting hand axes or just axes more broadly when they promote, and generally like having like a more balanced stat spread. And usually like most mercs in like vanilla at least have like really good base stats for whatever reason, which is why like they're really popular, because they're just like really flexible, high level, make good use of swords, fast, hit hard. But in this case, like, you've had Olin for a while, you've had Royale for a while. You don't really need a third sword user at that point in the game, especially like that's like getting right to the point where you're starting to bench some dudes. So I feel like Gerhard just struggles to stand out, mostly just from his join time. His stats look great. Like, I don't really... He just doesn't stand out enough, I think. The chapter he joins in, I think... If he had axes as a secondary weapon, that would make him more compelling to consider training. But given that this game is mono weapon types, and you get, was it Russell, like 4 chapters later, who's going to like way outclass him in speed and has like the same strength as Gerhard does at base, kind of hard to justify using him unless you just really like the scar on his face or just like the Merc class. So I could see him being decent, but like I feel like he joins too late for his more like generalist spread of stats to be really useful. And if you're using Olin, like she's probably way surpassed him at this point. So same with Royale. Troy, I know Troy's kind of like a meme. I didn't use him. But just looking at his stats, like he could be fun to use. But I don't know, man. I'm just not really feeling it. I love his art though. I like his recruitment. I think he's kind of funny. Brigands are really fun to use. I just didn't necessarily think this was the right time to use a Brigand, especially with his like defenses and stuff like that. Like he seems to be an all or nothing type of character, so I feel like you have to use him with care. But if you trained him, I'm sure he could probably be like the most powerful unit in your army in terms of just like raw like strength and attack power, probably even surpassing Brandon. But not really much reason to use him. I prefer the warrior in this case. Maron. Mayron's really interesting. I feel like Mayron is another unit that gets overshadowed quite a bit. Like, he joins early enough where he has some time to like break out and get really good. But he also has like, you know, he just has a lot of competition and he doesn't really stand out comparatively. Like, he not only has to like compete with Raquel for light tomes and like situations where you'd want light magic like against dark magic users or whatever, or just like something that can double with 2 range that's magical. And like he's slower than Raquel, he's a little bit more powerful but not much. Then you get a Nisa and she just like blows him out of the water. Like Mayron like has some use, and like you can get like another guy who can use Remedy and stuff like that. Like he'll have a better staff rank on promotion than like Jean or someone like that. But I feel like he kind of struggles to find his niche because other units can do what he does better. And unless, like, you know, you really know what you're doing and want to use, like, a bunch of more magic users or just, like, have Mayron as, like, a mainstay, you're not really getting that much more out of it than, like, if you were using someone else. Like, he doesn't really add anything that you don't already have. And he doesn't do anything better that no one else you have can do better. That doesn't mean he's bad. It just means he's outclassed. I don't really know what I would do to fix him and make him more viable. I feel like part of it's like Gerhard, where it's just like the join time is kind of tricky for Mayron because he kind of comes like early enough where he can do some stuff, but too late to become like for you to get really attached to him or to like, you know, potentially snowball. So he's a bit tricky on that front. I really wanted to make him work because he's fast, and I think he could have continued to be really fast, but his power growth was, I don't know if it just wasn't proccing for me, it was just not very high, but I feel like he really struggles to stand out. I mean, Raquel's basically forced, and she has a mount, so she's superior in that way, and she's Jagan, so she has that status. And then Anissa just gets so good, and she can just focus on healing all the way. So, I don't know, if your Anissa died or something like that, and you want to early promo him to make him a healer and do staffing, like you could, but like, he just feels very much like a backup unit. I don't know, I just feel like Mayron could be made better, but he just struggles to really stand out or do anything better than any of the other options you have can do. Not bad though, like was fine. Did some work early on, was pretty useful when I needed him, but again, just kind of struggled like in the later maps to really stand out, and that's why he ultimately got the bench. Royale, oh man, I love this guy. I underused him, I think. He had a pretty strong start. I think he really peaked around Chapter 6, where he was using the Landstraver to take on those Wyverns in the top left. It just kind of got to a point where he wasn't... you have to feed this guy a lot of kills to give him the stats, because like his growths are solid, and like he will gain stats when you level him. It's just like getting him to that point, because he's using swords which aren't that strong. His base stats aren't that great. He's super balanced, so like he's kind of tough to like do anything like on his own completely. He kind of just like fills gaps, and that has its use. And in the early game, he's essential. But I didn't level him up enough. He started to fall behind. I found like as I was playing through, and especially playing through blind, like it was harder for me to find uses for him when I'm thinking like, man, like, you know, he can't make the kill, or he's just like a few points short, or like he can't take the hit. So it's like he's kind of like sitting around a lot more and doing more like Canto-y, rescue-y type stuff, like what I did for him with Chapter 12, where he was doing some rescue Canto stuff. But he, I know he can be really good. I think if I tried again, I would use him a little bit more aggressively, and I think he would kind of pass that critical threshold where he would really soar. And he's the type of unit where if you don't use him very much, like his base stats will not carry him for very long. And even after like, I promoted him at level 12. He got like a kill in the 12th chapter, which was kind of superfluous. Like it could have been anyone's kill. So I don't know. Probably my mistake for not using him more and not leveling up a little bit more earlier on. But I think it was just, he's definitely a unit that's, in my opinion, probably a little bit harder for a blind player to really commit to. I think on like a second or third playthrough, you can probably make him really good if you know kind of what to expect and like can use him more strategically than I was playing blind. But I wouldn't change anything about him. I think he's really fun. I think he's probably like probably one of the most like talked about units about this game, because he's so hit or miss, I think, for people, and that's really interesting to have conceptually. So I'm gonna take a sip of water here. Then there's Mitch. I underused Mitch a lot, probably when he could have contributed more. I kept kind of forgetting about the knife and the range that he had. He did what he needed to do. He was a thief. I definitely could have used him a little bit more to get him to the speed thresholds. Like there was that energy ring I wanted to steal, and like a master seal to steal earlier on, and he could have gotten there, but I didn't give him enough levels. I mean, he got like 4 levels in the entire. He got 3 level ups, very close to a 4th, and then he was benched. So he's pretty nifty. He does his thieving stuff pretty well, but he's frail. You got to be really careful with him. Fine. Like, I think it's fine that a thief dies in like 1 hit in this game. Like, take care of your thieves, guys. Mitch was fine. I think it would have been more fun to try and use him a little bit more, but not really seeing much of a reason to give him that much combat. He was able to do everything he really needed to do. I feel like you can kind of get into like level 6 or 7, and he'd probably have enough speed to do all the thieving before Russell comes. I don't even know if Russell can steal. I didn't try, but pretty nifty unit nonetheless. Nadia. I feel like I really missed the boat with Nadia. I feel like I should have tried using her more, but her offensive parameters when she joins are just really weak. And she joins in that chapter with like the mountains and like there's bow users and stuff. So she doesn't really get off to a strong start in my opinion. She is really useful though, because she's the earliest move unit you get that can get 8 move. She's really fast. She has decent lance rank if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, she's got B rank here. She can do a lot of stuff for you, but again, I think another unit that like is harder to use blind because she's very unforgiving when you're wrong. And she was very helpful in the desert chapter though, with rescuing and dropping and stuff like that. So I'm glad I brought her. She has like the highest aid of anyone, which is also a unique trait. I think she can lift Brandon up even, or Brunel, which is really clutch. So she definitely has like these unique points about her that would make her useful. I just underutilized her. I wasn't willing to commit to the peg. And you got Kareem so soon after, and she was better at that point. So I like Nadia. I think if her strength was a little bit better, she'd probably be a bit more appealing for me. But like, you have to view her as more of a utility unit that can fight versus a fighting unit with some utility. Like, I think I've used her utility first, and maybe that's a mistake, but I feel like she's best suited in that role. Derringer, I mean, he got used in one chapter. He got 10 experience. He's kind of just like, I don't know, he's kind of just there. I like his art, but at the time he was like just about as good as Brandon. Brandon has better growths. Decent backup unit. Not really too much else to say about him. I didn't use him very much. Not really sure why he's forced in the desert map, but that's fine. I mean, gotta get him some use. Like, I would have benched him for Brandon otherwise if you gave me the option, so I guess it makes sense. But if you're not using Brandon and want a warrior for whatever reason, like, he can do the job. Russell, Russell was fine. Like, he kind of just took over for Mitch and was kind of just like Mitch with better stats. He did some work combat-wise in Chapter 12 where he joins, which is pretty nice. Like, he took out those phantoms from the forest, which was pretty useful. Getting the doors the chapter after. Not really too much else from him in this patch. He just joined kind of late to really develop an opinion about him, but he's definitely like the thief utility unit of choice from this point forward. So does what he needs to do. I think he's got compelling like skill and speed, decent power and luck and defense. Like, he's very usable but not overpowered, which I think is perfectly fine for an assassin. And he doesn't really like Olin's superior at combat, straight up. So he does his job. He has his niche. He's better than Mitch if you haven't trained him. I'm sure even if like you trained Mitch, he would probably still be a little bit better. But no complaints with Russell. I think he was a perfectly serviceable assassin. Again, didn't really need the assassin too much in those latter like 2 or 3 chapters. But anyway, useful guy. Ray. Oh man, I loved Ray. Ray was dope. Ray is just like Lum Jr. She comes in. She's super well balanced. She has great stats everywhere. She can do a lot of things with like no investment. I think just kind of like a comment that I'll make about the Druid class is like mixed tanking is so valuable here. Most of the units like have either, if they have any defense, it's either going to be in like defense or resistance. It's not going to be in both. And Druids are uniquely positioned in that they have like good defense and good res and dope HP, and they attack resistance. Like, they're just busted. And I feel like you could probably lower their defense caps a little bit to make them a little bit less broken altogether, because like this game revolves around player phases, but I was able to do a lot of enemy phase work with Ray and Lum, and I feel like if you make dark magic a little bit heavier and harder to use so they don't like double as much or risk getting doubled more, their defenses aren't as good. Like, they'll still have their role, but they won't be as infallible as they are. And Ray was pretty clutch, like not dying at the end of the last chapter, taking the heroic lance twice without issue. Like, she's really good. Not really too much else to say about her. She's just really strong. Yeah, just dark magic in general in this hack is just busted, which is pretty fun. Brent, oh man, Brent was great. I was a little worried about Brent at first. He wasn't really getting a lot of speed. He was kind of slow. I didn't really care for him as much as Royale or Annie, but his defense, what makes Brent unique is that he has a pretty good defense stat, like probably second to Brunel for most of the game, and then Lum kind of surpassed him at the end there. And high defense and Canto Plus is a really unique combo, and that kind of gave Brent his niche and his place, using lances as well. Him and Brunel are the only really 2 lance users you have for like the first like, you know, half the game. So Brent definitely like stayed relevant for that, and then like after promotion he got really good. He did great work in chapter 6 where he promoted and then like took 0 damage from the Swordmaster. Was really good at tanking stuff when I needed him to. Did his job. Like fun defensive paladin, pretty well balanced. I think probably started seeing a little bit less use towards the end because he just like wasn't getting the firepower to kill stuff. But like if I needed someone who can like get up close, deal big damage, and take a hit, Brent was the guy because he could also peel away. So really fun, useful unit. And just look at that chin. Just look at that chin. The supports with any Royale. He supports with a bunch of good units too. I could have supported them with Lum if I wanted to, which I might try and do next time. But yeah, really, really nifty unit. Just cap defense at level 6, pretty busted. Decent all around. Fun unit, no complaints. Brandon, I feel like I tried really hard to make Brandon work. And I'm glad I did, because he had a lot of power. Able to one-shot stuff even at weapon triangle disadvantage with the gold axe. A little bit slower of a start, I think just like his join time makes it a bit harder. Like he joins in chapter 6 and he's your first infantry axe user. You have Annie, and Brandon's a little bit more like your traditional axe user. He's stronger, a little bit slower, but he just grows super well and is really well balanced. He kind of, I feel like Gerhard would be similar stat-wise, only in a different class. Brandon's advantage is that he's the only other axe user you have for a bit besides Annie, and they play very differently. He has no res, which is fine. Like, he needs a weakness, but solid unit, pretty flexible for an infantry axe fighter, and it's a dab. Gotta love it. Yeah, I don't really know what else to change about him. I think he was like he's a pretty good candidate, I think, for stat boosters because he's so well balanced that he'll take advantage of any of them. But I don't know. I feel like it would be interesting to try and use Troy instead, but I don't really see why I would pick Troy over him. Maybe the crit bonus, better luck, but like his defense is so much better. Like he can tank, which is really invaluable. Annie, man, Annie was really fun to use. She wasn't the best. Like I think Annie probably takes the crown for most deaths throughout the run. I think part of it was like me not believing that she only had 10 defense. Like she was really frail. I definitely favored her a lot. But just unit design wise, guys, this is just like a really unique unit to play with. You have a female Axe Cavalier with dope res, great speed. It's crazy. Like it's just like this mage killing Axe Cavalier. It's just very counterintuitive for I think how a lot of people will design Axe Cavaliers. And like if you think of Axe Cavs throughout the series, they're usually more like physical bruisers like Lex or like my boy Hicks or Brighton. Annie kind of is just like a very different type of unit, and she was really unique and different from any other unit I think I've used in a Fire Emblem game. And she was now without her flaws, and that's fine. Like she should be flawed with the low defense. She didn't have con to wield hand axes until promoted properly. Her power growth is a little shaky for this game. Her caps aren't great. Like, she definitely starts to get outclassed, but she was fun. She was a really fun unit to use, and it was really satisfying to get stuff done with her because she could just deliver. She has the monopoly and axes for like the first 6 chapters too, which is really nice. I didn't use the devil axe at all, but that's also like a nice option that she has early on to like kill stuff in a pinch. But fun unit, really fun to use. I know some people, I've read it like in the Discord, not a lot of people like her longer term, which I get. Her caps aren't that great, whatever, but like I thought she was perfectly serviceable. You just need to be careful because she will die. She is pretty frail, but that's fine. A unit like this should be frail. Kareem was really useful. She did some stuff in combat, which was great. She has like just good enough combat parameters when she joins to contribute in certain situations. Good with mages, really nice with the Brave Lance. The utility though I think is what really makes Kareem excellent. She has 8 move, she flies, she can scurry around the map. She's invaluable for that, and for me had better stats than Nadia. So Hard to say, like, if Nadia would have been better if I trained her. I'm assuming she would be. But Kareem comes in not too long after Nadia joins and with better stats. So, I don't know. I felt like Kareem was perfectly fine before she joined. She definitely is frail. You gotta be careful with her. But she can do some stuff on combat. I don't know. She was utility unit. Again, pegs in this game definitely feel like strong utility. The 8-move flyers are just really cool. And they have that going for them. So Kareem was really fun. I love her design. Fun little Pegasus Knight character. But yeah, she was cool. I mean, look at that speed. Like, she doubles everything. So I don't know. I feel like she helped me get out of a lot of jams when it came to positioning. Really useful in the desert map with positioning and stuff. That last turn in this past chapter where she picked up Olin and was able to dart over the mountain because she had the move. Super clutch. Really like this unit. Does a lot of things, but again, combat-wise, not great, and that's fine. She does enough. She has enough combat to do some stuff. She's not going to be a frontliner. She's a utility unit that can fight occasionally, which is perfectly fine by me. I think a really well-designed unit. Alvin is kind of like in a similar boat where it's like he is like kind of like a half step tuned down in utility from Kareem and like a half step tuned up in combat. Like he's a bit, he's more durable, more traditional Wyvern rider kind of build. Not as much aid, but still can rescue people. Can use lances. Like, he was fine. I think Kareem is more fun. I think generally pegs are more fun to use than Wyverns, but he's more useful in combat. You gotta be careful though. Like, he's not the fastest, he's not the most bulk, but he's pretty useful in a pinch. He's kind of like if Brent was a flying unit, but maybe a little bit worse. But pretty useful. I mean, I fielded him like almost every chapter I had him. Flying is that good, and he can use big lances, so I liked him. Not really too much I would change about him. I think he does what he needs to do, and that's perfectly fine. I feel like he's kind of like towards the bottom of the barrel though for my units I was deploying. Like, if I needed just like straight flower utility, I would go with Kareem. But because he has some flower utility and like some pretty decent combat, he made the cut. Brunel, rest in peace, my friend. It's my sweet prince. He was great. Like, talk about like making armor knights good, guys. Like, Brunel's an example. Brunel's a freaking example. Like, one, great base stats, amazing base defense, joins, and is just your best defensive option. Can take hits, uses lances, which at that point you only have Brent when he joins. Decent enough speed to not get doubled for most of the game until kind of towards the end there, where he died. But excellent unit, great, kind of like some might call him like your second Jagan, because it doesn't grow super well, but like he still grew pretty well considering, and he's immediately useful. Definitely like a mainstay for sure. Just like having that much defense and pretty solid power. Does really good work with the Brave Lance. Can one-shot some stuff with the Horse Slayer and things like that. Great unit. Just a great unit all around. No complaints there. Brunel is excellent. Olin. Oh man, Olin? Dude, Olin got off to like a really rough start with me. I wasn't so sure how I felt about her. Like, she joins pretty early. And at that point, like, if you've been using Royale is probably better. And some of those early chapters, like having a sword isn't really that great. Where she really started to shine for me was around chapter 6, where she took on all those pirates and basically like soloed the top right part of the map because she was on a forest and a weapon triangle. That gave her enough levels to really start to like snowball a bit, and then her combat just kind of soared from there. She has so much speed, she's got a lot of power. Defensively, she's really frail on both sides of the coin for defense and resistance, which isn't great. But she's going to be there to like come in, delete stuff, but you got to like really work around her. So like Olin, I feel like, is very situational in that regard. Not going to be your strongest unit overall. Absolutely crushes in certain situations like axe users. She dominates. She was good against mages with the Mage Bane. Like, there's a lot of fun swords to use in this game. Olin makes very good use of all of them. But she's not a unit you can just attack with and leave her where she is. She needs to move around. So I found that doing a lot of rescue dropping with her made her really useful. And so it's like you kind of like really need to commit to her to make her work because of how frail her defense is. Like, the offense is worth it, but you gotta be willing to like move her around with rescue drops or like work around her. So I feel like she's like kind of like a table setting unit where it's like, all right, who can Olin take out, and then how do I make the rest of my move revolve around this? But really fun. I've documented female Myrmidon bias, so Olin was definitely someone I tried to make work. And after like chapter 6, I think she was really kind of like, all right, this is a good unit. I want to keep using her. Sagita definitely gets off to a rough start. Like, she does some useful chip in her join chapter 6. Not really one-rounding anything. Doubling some stuff, but not a lot. Her damage output is kind of weak to anything except flyers up front. And I think that's kind of what gave me a negative impression of her. I'm kind of like, you know, do I really need this bow user who has weak defenses, can't enemy phase? And then I tried her again. Scraiza was like, dude, you should just use her. And she really took off and became incredibly invaluable. Bows are just that good in this game. So another example, like, you as a would-be ROM hacker trying to like make archers good, like, really dominant player phase, extra range options, like 3 range, 4 range, 5 range, like, that's incredible. Getting the longbow, even if it doesn't do like that much damage all the time, great. 3 range and everything, excellent. Like, super fun, works really well in the context of this hack. I think the game kind of expects you to take advantage of the 3 range bows, which I fully appreciate. Very good at disabling mages, good against flyers. A bow user I decided I really wanted to use. Great offensive parameters, like, does everything you want a sniper to do. And became pretty reliable. Like, she couldn't kill everything in a single round. Like, definitely struggled against like armor knights and like some cavalry, I think, especially because like she didn't have like the piercing bow like Beryl. But she was really useful, and I'm glad that I went back and stuck with her after kind of initially not being super bullish on her performance. But after promotion, she really kind of snowballed, and would definitely use again. Really liked her. Santa's a dancer. She heals. Healing dancers, man, like, it's nifty, it's fun, but like, I think I healed with her once the entire run, and I think I accidentally healed with her like 4 or 5 times, and that cost me. So I feel like most FE players don't expect their dancers to heal, and I think it can cause more frustration than it's worth. I had the same issue when I played like some of Order of the Crimson Arm, because the dancers can heal there, and just the commands, you just get thrown off, or you'll hit heal when you mean to hit dance, and that can ruin your whole turn. But she does her job. She's pretty like solid statistically for a dancer too. 41 HP, 22 speed, 15 res, like, pretty useful. I mean, she's a dancer, guys. She's gonna be great. She makes Beryl move twice. Anissa, oh man. Talk about like growth unit. Like, at first you're kind of like this like little like girl healer with weak stats and like 0 base defense or whatever, but she grows really well, and freeing up Raquel to do some other things on offense or more utility work, really useful. The remedy staff is cool. I think it gives like infantry healers, especially bishops, like a good little niche with like that near range healing. Like, that was really useful in this hack. Positioning so important. I would have loved to have used her on offense more. Like, her parameters are insane. She was really good against like mages as well with her high res, but she was so good with staves, and I was so used to using Jean on offense that like I didn't really want to switch over. Like, maybe if I had more deployment slots, I would have tried something else. Like, maybe going back to Myron. He could have been good with staves, I guess, and I could have made Anissa more of an attacking unit, but I didn't really have the deployment slots, I think, to support that. But I could have tried it. I don't know. But curious to see where else she goes. Like, I like her progression, like going from like healer to just like absolute beast very quickly, which was fun. Speaking of absolute beasts, he's broken, man. This unit's broken. Like, he starts off like pretty strong, but then he just like overtakes and eclipses the rest of your army. Like Lum, I was able to really juggernaut the maps with, like, pretty much from like the desert on. I feel like Lum really stole the show, and just like great way to, you know, he's got such good caps that he's a great person to dump stat boosters into. His weapons are all really good and fun to use. Mixed tanking, like 27 defense. This guy's insane. Absolutely insane. I would say the MVP of like the latter third of the run, for sure. But very useful all throughout his life cycle. So I think Dark Mages, Shamans, Druids, whatever you want to call them, they need to be nerfed a little bit. You gotta do something about that. I'm curious, like, later on, like, when caps matter more, like, will his 23 speed hurt him? But I can only go based on what I see here in the 16 chapters I've played. Lum was great. Jean, I was a little unsure about Jean to start, but she quickly proved me wrong. She's really fast, and doubling as a mage is super valuable. She was more powerful than Mayron, and was able to double just about as often. So she won me over. Animatomes are pretty solid in this game. Just like a really good like workhorse offensive unit, consistently doubling. Able to use staves after promotion. Got a lot of crits. Pretty much just your only mage. So she had a monopoly on all the animatomes you get, which is really cool. There are a pretty fair amount of light magic users in this game, it seems like, so she definitely has her advantages over them. Being able to double, man. Just being able to double early and often. Really good for Jean. Really fun to use. Definitely one of my favorite units. I wouldn't say the best. I would probably, like, if I had to, like, tier the units, I would probably have, like, Beryl, Raquel, Lum, and, like, one tier. And then, like, the tier below would be, like, Jean, Brent, Burnell. I think probably something like that. I'm just kind of spitballing. I need to like really sit down and do like a proper tier list, but definitely a notch below the best units, but still very useful in her own right. Not as much like of a unique value proposition for her. Like Lum can do like a lot of what she does better. She doubles more, which is unique, but really fun unit to use. Really great sage. Raquel, man. Like, at the beginning, I was definitely, like, skeptical of using her too much. But once you, like, just, like, commit to her, she's great. It's fine to give her experience. Like, she was relevant in every chapter she was in. Staves are useful. Mounts are useful. Her speed is incredible. I feel like I don't remember seeing anything she didn't double. So, I mean, she's Raquel. Like, you can't go wrong. I would have loved if she got more power, because it kind of limited her staff utility with, like, what's it called? Rescue and Warp a bit. But that's a good design choice to not make her too busted, because, like, if she had stronger magic, man, like, she would be crazy. She would be, like, Seth tier Dragon. And so I think it's good that she has lower power. I think I just got unlucky with how little she got, but still a very useful unit. Meshalan. He did his job. Like, he kills flyers in one hit in the chapter he joins. That is all you need him to do. Very weak and frail otherwise, but like, this is just like a one-note unit to destroy flyers in his join map. And he did that until he died because I misplaced him. But fun unit. I think he killed something every turn, so I liked using him. He was fun. It was good in that north group there. Well, I had Sagita and Beryl down low to shoot stuff over the mountains, so I was a fan of Meshalan. Like, his defense and luck and HP are comically bad. Like, you should give him a little bit more health, dude. 28 is so low for a level 10 sniper. I could understand the luck and defense, kind of give him what you want, like, to go with here, because he is, like, very good offensively for free. But you've got to be so careful with this unit. He's so deceptively frail. 28 HP in this game is nothing. So a little bit more there I think would help. And then Beryl. Beryl was consistently, like, a little bit of a slow start, but just consistently. Once he promoted, man, he was just game over. Game over for Beryl. Really good. Did everything you needed him to do. Bows are really good. Horses are really good. Oh man, I'm losing my voice just talking about how good everything is. Yeah, Barrel was excellent. I kind of wish I could have promoted him sooner. I think if I played this again, I probably wouldn't feed him as many kills right up front, because I feel like, if I recall correctly, he like capped out before I could promote him, which was like chapter 7 or something stupid like that. So I don't know. I think he would benefit a little bit from like an earlier promo option, but I understand why that's not the case because he's the Lord and all that. But he's just like a delete button. Like, he's really good. The Brave Bow is incredible with him. Saved me so many times. Definitely the best unit in the game. No doubt in my mind about that. Really fun. Like, talk about, like, again, making a Bow Lord, put him on a horse. He's great. I don't really know what else to say. Like, his defenses are bad, but that's fine. Like, it's okay that he can't take hits. He's so good at dishing out damage, he doesn't need to take it. He should. You have Canto Plus, get out of range. Don't make him enemy phase like me or you'll die. But that's everyone. The other 2 units that joined, Cena and Fedor, not really too much else to say. Like, they did what they needed to do in their join chapter, but not really a lot to give like a full review. I don't really think anyone needs like any serious tweaking. Like, everyone seems very thoughtfully designed. I think the Druid class needs to be nerfed a little bit. I think Mayron needs to have like something going for him that'll separate him a bit more from the crowd. Same with Gerhard. Like, both of them just like get outclassed. They're not bad, but just get outclassed. So I need to figure out what is their unique purpose that these other units don't have. That's all. Oh man, I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed. But overall, like, map-wise, like, very intentional design, guys. Like, if you are struggling to design maps and flow, like, look to this game. Like, Scraiza did an excellent job putting together the maps. I would say none of them really were sloggy. Some were stronger than others for sure. Like, chapter 6 was easily my favorite and very satisfying. Some of the others didn't really land for me as well. Like, this last one, chapter 16, is just really big for 10 turns, and it takes a long time. I'm not as crazy about it. It kind of just felt like chapter 6, but bigger and badder. The chapter where you get Olin is pretty fun with the gates and all that. Like, that's pretty nifty. Yeah, like, the Fog of War I thought was pretty fair. Like, the chapters were good. Like, the chapters in this hack were all pretty well designed. Not too much I would change there. I really don't have too much else to say. Like, I think this hack does a lot of things right. But it also, you have to consider the context, right? Like, this hack has an idea, and it fully commits to it. Everything is around this idea of, like, extreme player phase orientation and positioning. And Canto Plus enables that for sure, and that's not something for everyone, and not every hack should have it. But this hack, like, takes its idea and runs with it. And I really appreciate that about what Scraiza did. The game looks great. Like, the art is all custom. The map palettes are fantastic. The music is good. So, not really too much else to say there. I might have some more thoughts later on, and I'll share them, Scraiza, with you, you know, in Discord or something if I think of them. But right now, man, like, I'm fading fast. I'm getting ready for bed. But this was fun. I had a great time with this hack. Like, this was really satisfying. I would go so far as to say, like, the best hack that I've played. I just want to get to the title music again because it's really climactic. Yeah. Probably the best hack that I played from a design standpoint. Definitely the most rewarding to play. Really fair. Like, this game does not sucker punch you. Everything is super fair. It's laid out. You just need to do the math. You just need to do the work. And I love that. And that's what made this game really addicting for me, is that every time I lost, I knew that it was because I messed up. It wasn't because the game did something that was unfair. And I really liked that. And it's really important. Every game should try and emulate that way to make difficulty, where enemies are super well placed, they're really scary, you can't just juggernaut. You create difficulty from tough situations that you try to get the player out of, that they have full control over getting out of, versus trying to sucker punch the player or taking away things they expect to have because that's really frustrating. So overall, I think this hacked this difficulty really well. It was fair, but it's hard, man. It was really hard. I'm really gonna miss playing this, man. I've really enjoyed playing this. It really broke me. I definitely feel like I was just saying this to Pikmin. I'm just like, man, I feel like I got my masters in Fire Emblem. This was really hardcore, and I may try it again sometime, but I really enjoyed this. And Scraiza, you should pat yourself on the back, man, because this is an exceptional body of work, and just a great. I just feel like it shows like what you can do with the medium, right? Like GBA has come so far. You can make something very different, no skills, and it's this engaging. It's just like pure math, pure positioning, strats, all of it. It's just like Fire Emblem boiled down to like its best elements. And that said, it's not for everyone. Like, this game you really have to focus, and it actually made it hard to Let's Play because I needed to focus so much, and I think my commentary, like I was saying before, suffered because of it. But as a gameplay experience, excellent. Writing, not the focus of the hack. It's not even finished. The writing was serviceable. I think the character interactions you had were fine. There was nothing about this that was egregious. It was pretty straightforward. Some of the stuff with like the Phantom showing up and no one really commenting on it was kind of unusual, I thought. But obviously the writing is still being worked on. Don't really have too much else to say there. Like, this is very much a gameplay focused hack. This gameplay very well. And to you would-be hackers out there, like, you don't need to get caught up in story. Story can come later. Focus on making a good game. This game definitely gave me a lot to think about as I work through kind of the last arc of Vision Quest as well, in terms of how I think about these late game maps and what I can do to make them challenging and not slogs. And this game was not a slog at all. It was hard. It was engaging. And I had a lot of fun with it, man. I really did. Definitely one of the most fun romhack projects I've played. Certainly the most well designed. I think this should be like required playing for ROM hackers as far as just like how to design your game. And not saying you need to emulate the style completely, but just thinking through like how you lay out enemies, how you kind of do the push and pull of the map. Just the flow is so good. Nothing about it. Everything just seems so well curated, which I really appreciated. But anyway, I can go on. I'm falling asleep at the wheel here. My name is Pandan. This has been really fun. I hope you enjoyed this like quick little review of the units. I know it wasn't the most in-depth, but didn't have too much to say. Like, everyone did their job. Everyone has a job. A couple of units needed to be buffed a little bit. Lum probably needs to be nerfed. More so the Shaman class needs to be nerfed. But this was a great ride, and I look forward to seeing what comes next. So until then, guys, my name is Pandan. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. We're going to start a new LP very soon. So until then, enjoy, be safe, check your ranges, and play more Souls of the Forest, guys. This game is great. I'll see you guys. Cursor, we out. All right, I'll see you.